What if the Axis won World War II? In our own timeline, the Second World War was the biggest and bloodiest conflict in the world, starting in 1939 with the invasion of Poland and ending with the surrender of Japan in 1945. The Axis powers, Germany, Italy and Japan, would end up losing, and the Soviet Union and United States would become the two great powers. But what if that didn't happen? What if the Axis won World War II? In 1941, Germany still invades the Soviet Union, but on July 7, 1941, Japan invaded the USSR from the east in a surprise invasion, forcing the USSR into a two-front war. They quickly take Primorje and southern Khabarovsk, and besiege Vladivostok. The Soviets are now forced to send some divisions to the Far East to stop the Japanese advance, and protect their resources in Siberia. With the Soviets now having less soldiers, Germany actually manages to win the Battle of Moscow. They then camp for winter. In 1942, Germany launches Case Blue, and this time they don't attack Stalingrad. They successfully cut off the Caucasus by August and march into it. After the fall of the Army of the South in early October, Turkey joins the Axis as they fear to be taken over. Turkish and German forces invade Syria and Lebanon, and Iraq rises up against the British, who just conquered them the last year. This caused the British to send many troops to West Asia, exposing their forces in Egypt, who get defeated in El Alamein. Italy and Germany besiege Alexandria, but are halted at the Nile River. Meanwhile, Army Group North and Center launched the Moscow offensive. It ended with Russia being pushed to the Volga and northern Dvina with only bordering cities like Stalingrad or Nizhny Novgorod holding out. In November 1942, Stalin was killed by politicians in Kazan, who then asked for an armistice. The border between the Reichskommissariat Moscovian and Soviet Union becomes the Volga and northern Dwina River, while the Lena River becomes the border with the Far Eastern Republic under Konstantin Radzievsky. Furthermore, Mengjing annexes Mongolia, and Tanatuva Xinjiang becomes a Japanese vassal state under Abdülmecid II of the House of Osmanoglu. On December 7, 1942, Japan bombs Pearl Harbor, bringing the U.S. into the war, and invaded American, British, and Dutch colonies in Southeast Asia. In 1943, Germany launches Case Braun, which is a two-front offensive in Egypt and Syria that ends with the British being pushed out of the Levant, and Egypt with both armies meeting at the Suez Canal. Saudi Arabia and Yemen join and invade British colonies in the Middle East, while the Sultanate of Muscat declares its independence. Spain also joins and invades neutral Portugal and Gibraltar. Japan takes Macau and East Timor, and Iran, which is mostly occupied by UK, also joins. Since the Allies need to send far more soldiers and resources against Germany, Japan manages to hold a defensive line. The rest of the war is mostly a stalemate, with minor territorial changes until a peace agreement is signed in 1945, and they sign two peace treaties. In the Treaty of Copenhagen, Germany keeps all of its gains in the east and northern Schleswig. Italy annexes lands east of the Rhone River, Corsica, Tunisia, French Somaliland, British Somaliland, Cyprus, Malta, Palestine, Sinai Peninsula and Suez. Italy puppets the Kingdom of Algeria led by Muhammad al-Amin of Tunisia, and Kingdom of Egypt led by Farouk I. Iraq forms the Arab Federation with Transjordan and annexes Kuwait. Turkey annexes Syria, Saudi Arabia annexes Qatar, Bahrain, and the Trucial States. Yemen annexes Aden, and Oman becomes independent. Meanwhile, Vichy France also loses Morocco to Spain, and Togo, Dahomey, Cameroon, Ubangi, Shari, Congo, Gabon, and Madagascar to Germany, while the rest goes to Free France. In exchange, Germany also gets Nigeria, Uganda, Kenya, Zambia, and Malawi. Germany also takes Angola and northern Mozambique from Portugal. South Africa gets the remaining British colonies in South Africa and the rest of Mozambique. Guinea-Bissau goes to France. Furthermore, UK annexed the Faroe Islands, while the US annexed Greenland. The second treaty was signed in Honolulu. Japan keeps its puppet states, and Azad Hind gets Bengal and Assam. Indonesia gets North Borneo, East Timor, and New Guinea. Japan annexes major Chinese port cities, while the rest goes to the reorganized national government of the Republic of China, with Inner Mongolia going to Mengjing and Qinghai to neutral Tibet. After the war, there are three major blocs. The United Nations between the US, UK, its dominions, France, the Dutch government in exile, and Liberia. The Pact of Steel between the Axis members in Europe and the Middle East except for Finland, and the Greater East Asian Co-Prosperity Sphere between Japan and its puppet states. In 1947, after the Thai coup, Japan invades Siam. Malaysia, Cambodia, Laos, and Burma retake their former territories, and the rest get puppeted by Japan. In 1949, fearing Germany, representatives from Spain, Italy, Bulgaria, Romania, Turkey, the Arab Federation, and Iran meet in Istanbul to form the Istanbul Pact aimed against German dominance. Fearing that Hungary would join them, Germany invades Hungary and puppets it. They would allow Slavs refuge in Bulgaria and Transnistria and Jews in Palestine just to show Hitler the middle finger. Meanwhile, Hitler settles Jews in Madagascar. In 1949, Stalin is assassinated by Malenkov and Beria after his defeat in World War II. However, this causes the Soviet Union to collapse on itself. Both Germany and Japan would launch military operations. Germany stopped at the Ural River and Ural Mountains, while Japan pushed to the Yenisei River, which was supposed to be the border between the German Reich and Japanese Teikoku. The rest of Russia falls into anarchy, with many warlords claiming ownership of Russia or Central Asian people declaring independence. In Italy, Adaro was meant to be part of Moscovian, but Alfred Rosenberg, who always wanted to establish Reichskommissariat Turkestan, establishes his own Reichskommissariat. He did invade Kazakhstan, but Hitler, who wanted to focus on Europe, didn't support him, and it ended in failure. But Kazakhstan couldn't invade Turkestan, and so nothing ended, so the Treaty of Adaro is signed that promises peace. In 1959, Germany invades Switzerland. Italy protested, but in the end only got Ticino and southern Brittany, while Burgundy annexes Romandy, while the rest becomes the Reichskommissariat Squiz under Gottlob Berger. In 1955, Hitler dies of syphilis and Goebbels becomes Führer, as Göring already died because of a heart attack and Himmler being in Burgundy. This, however, didn't stop him, and so he invaded Nazi Germany. At the same time, in the East, Republicans under Theodore Heuss rise up, centered in Königsberg. As all of this was going on, the Red Army fraction is launching an insurgency all over the country. With Germany now preoccupied, its enemies smell blood. The Kingdom of Croatia under Tomislav II invade the independent state of Croatia under Ante Pavelić. Bulgaria, Albania, Croatia, Romanka, and the Serbian Liberation Army invaded Serbia, with most of it going to the Slav, while Bulgaria annexes lands east of the Morava River and Romania Westbanat. They then invade Hungary, with Romania annexing North Transylvania and Miklos Horthy becoming regent again until his death in 1957, when he gets succeeded by Otto I. The French state declared its independence, but soon later the Allies invade them, and the French government under Charles de Gaulle retakes the homeland. As this was going on, Japan invades Siberia and Kazakhstan takes Turkestan. Russia meanwhile declares its independence and pushes out the little German forces that wasn't sent to fight in the Civil War. They then invade Ukraine, Ostland, and Caucasian. Turkey and Iran also invade Caucasian and liberate Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia. As Germany was losing its empire in Europe due to invasions, its empire in Africa falls due to collapsing in on itself, with smaller African nations declaring their independence. Denmark also declared its independence, while the Allies liberated Norway, which led Burgundy to annex the Netherlands. Now, with the German holdings gone, the United Nations, Istanbul Pact, and Russian Republic launched the invasion of Germany itself. The Russian army pushes all the way to the Oder River in a surprise invasion, while the Istanbul Pact makes slow gains in Slovenia and Austria because of the mountains. In the west, the French and American forces liberate East Paris and push deep into Burgundian land. By early 1958, Germany is defeated and the Treaty of Zurich is signed. France retakes most of Burgundy and Alsace-Lorraine. Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Serbia, and Switzerland become independent again. Italy annexes Slovenia, South Croatia annexes North Croatia, Bulgaria annexes lands east of the Morava River, Romania annexes Westbanat and North Transylvania. The Russian Republic annexes the Reichskommissariat Moscovian, Ostland, Ukraine, and most of Caucasian, and also Bialystok and East Galicia. Poland gets back lands they held before World War II except for Posen, West Prussia, and Upper Silesia, and Czechoslovakia annexes the Sudetenland, with Germans from the former three being deported to Germany. Italy puppets the Austrian federal state, and Denmark its North Schleswig. The rest of Germany is divided into 5 occupation zones. Italy and Bavaria, Baden and Württemberg, France and Rhineland and Westphalia, UK and Lower Saxony and Schleswig-Holstein, USA and Brandenburg, Mecklenburg and Saxony and Russia and Prussia, Posen and Silesia. In 1958 the Iraqi coup d'état still takes place, but it ends with its allies invading them. Turkey annexes Mosul, Saudi Arabia annexes lands that weren't part of the Ottomans, Italy takes Transjordan and Persia takes the rest of Iraq. Turkey and Saudi Arabia also agree that Saudi Arabia gets some Syrian border territories to formally end the Sykes-Picot borders. In 1962 the victory divided Germany into 3: the South German Federation under Albrecht I, which is an Italian puppet state, the Prussian Free State led by Walther von Seydlitz-Kersbuch, which is a Russian puppet state, and the German Federal Republic under Willy Brandt, which is independent. In 1966 China erupts in civil war. Seeing an opportunity, Russia invades the Far Eastern Republic and India takes Azad Hind. American and Australian forces also make a comeback in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. After all of this, Russia retakes all of its former lands and puppets Xinjiang, Mongolia, Manchukuo and Korea, while China becomes independent. India annexes Azad Hind and puppets Burma, Siam, Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam and Malaysia. Indonesia, the Philippines, Japan and China join the United Nations, while India and Russia form the Russo-Indian Alliance. In the end, the most pathetic of the 3 Axis powers doesn't just survive, but is the leader of one of the 3 major factions. The Istanbul Pact would gradually liberalize. In 1946 Turkey had its first multi-party election. Pahlavi. Iran is, without the coup of 1953, a democracy. Bulgaria under Simeon III and Romania under Manuel I liberalize, and after Franco dies Spain becomes a democracy again, and after Quino died in 1984 Vittorio Emanuele IV would bring back democracy like in Spain 9 years earlier. After the collapse of Germany and Japan the world is more calm, and most the Italian bloc would gradually join the United Nations, with South Germany joining the North, while Egypt, Algeria, Morocco and independent Libya, Palestine, Saudi Arabia, Yemen and Oman formed the Arab League. China would emerge in the 21st century as the 3rd major power. The world would be in the 40s, 50s and 60s a despotian world, but would gradually turn even more liberal than our own timeline. Ironically, the world is still very much like our own, but with minor changes. If you liked the episode, leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe. Goodbye.